Federalist 49, Part 4. This is going to be paragraph 8. But the greatest objection of all is that the decisions which would probably result from such appeals would not answer the purpose of maintaining the constitutional equilibrium of the government. We have seen that the tendency of Republican governments is to an aggrandizement of the legislative at the expense of the other departments. The appeals to the people, therefore, would usually be made by the executive and judiciary departments, but whether made by one side or the other, would each side enjoy equal advantages on the trial? Let us view their different situations. The members of the executive and judiciary departments are few in number and can be personally known to a small part only of the people. The latter, by the mode of their appointments, as well as by the nature and permanency of it, are too far removed from the people to share much in their prepossessions. The former are generally the objects of jealousy, and their administration is always liable to be discolored and rendered unpopular. The members of the legislative department, on the other hand, are numerous, they are distributed and dwell among the people at large. Their connections of blood, of friendship, and of acquaintance embrace a great proportion of the most influential part of the society. The nature of their public trust implies a personal influence among the people, and that they are more immediately the confidential guardians of their rights and liberties. With these advantages, it can hardly be supposed that the adverse party would have an equal chance for a favorable issue. So, again, he says, I respect Mr. Jefferson a lot. He's a very wise person, but I think here his recommendation of convening a convention to right the wrongs of the Constitution every so many years is wrong, because yes, he also was talking about separation of powers and how to stop or check the legislature's abuses, because he knew that legislature will outpower the other branches. And he suggested to us, or he has suggested in his book, that we should have a convention every so many years when 2/3 of the members of the legislature agree to a convention. But Madison says, well, there's a problem with that, because to get the 2/3 of the members of the Congress or legislature to agree to it, all you need to do is find 1/3 of the members not agreeing with that, and 1/3 plus 5 people. And you can easily corrupt a few people in the legislature, so you'll never get to that 2/3. But even if you did, when you get people that are not very wise or very well informed in the affairs of the government, in the history of mankind, you're not going to get something good come out of it. So we have to think of another mechanism, because the other two branches, like I said before, they are not so close physically to people. They're not like the members of the legislature that live amongst the people, that are relatives with a whole bunch of them, that have direct connections to them. And so that is a big problem. Legislature is going to have that advantage over the other two branches, so we have to come up with a better check on abuses that the legislature might bring about. By the way, I referred to this picture you're looking at in the last video. This is another edition of the Federalist Papers. Charles Beard, who has edited and analyzed this, was one of the first people in the beginning of the 20th century to write a book that was critical of some of the founders and their intention. So definitely take a look at this, take a look at his book when you can. It's very important to do that. At least look at the introduction he's written to this edition, and remember that this edition of the Federalist that he did was written 2-3 decades after he wrote his first critical book. So his views had changed a little bit. Okay, I'll go to the next paragraph. But the legislative party would not only be able to plead their cause most successfully with people, they would probably be constituted themselves the judges. The same influence which had gained them an election into the legislature would gain them a seat in the convention. So let's assume even that you're going to have a convention. He says the same people that are legislatures now that might be causing the problem to begin with are going to be so close to the people on the street that they're going to get themselves into these new conventions that are going to be coming about. So you'll have the same problem all over. If this should not be the case with all, it would probably be the case with many, and pretty certainly with those leading characters on whom everything depends in such bodies. The convention, in short, would be composed chiefly of men who had been, who actually were, or who expect to be members of the department whose conduct was arraigned. They would consequently be parties to the very question to be decided by them. So you try to correct the wrong, you try to check the legislature, check its overreach, check its encroachment, stop it from crushing the other two branches. What you'll end up doing is setting up a new convention to look at the Constitution, but guess what? The same members of the legislature who were the problem are going to be elected to the convention because they are the same people that are closest to the people. They can endear themselves to the people and say, elect me to this convention, and I'll make sure that everything you want takes place. Whether it's good for you or not in the long run, we won't talk about it, but I will do what you want right now. So Mr. Madison tells the people who are in favor of Jefferson's suggestion that that might not be the wise way of going about things. So we got one paragraph left, and I will just do that in the next video.